say it's Florida because, with all due respect, it doesn't look like the Florida we've seen for the last week. Cows in Florida, who knew? Right in the middle of the big city. Well, while I can't imagine willingly moving to Florida, if somebody held a gun to my head and said, you have to move to Florida, where do you want to go? I would say Chiefland. This isn't a bad area. The Forest Capitol Museum State Park. They had a lot of exhibits inside about the early harvesting of turpentine and the forestry industry. And then out here we have some buildings, mostly that have been brought here from a little distance up the road. This is the Cracker House. Inside, obviously, is a bedroom with a sewing machine and a few other things. And then it has an open breezeway in the middle. This pair of tongs, you want to move some logs. Day 27, leaving Perry, Florida, and going up, and we'll be going across the Panhandle. Lawrenceville, Florida, and the Panhandle. A real live.
So this was from here? This was from Blountstown. The admin building now is in the center of town behind the grocery store, but that was the school, and it was built right there, and so it provided classroom space as well as community center.
The Shiloh two-room schoolhouse.
After I don't know whether they moved her out because she was ill or whether she passed away in there. Mm-hmm. But another family, local family, lived in there for a while. June moved her family in there, so they were occupied.
Dana back safely, he would build 3 churches as a way to say thank you. And so this is one of them. And so he started out to build it. He hired men to work 10-hour days. He paid them $1 a day for a 10-hour day. And then he moved on to town on Friday. And of course, their disposition
Oop, you go that way. But this way.
It's all tongue and groove beaded board. There was no metal used in the making because all of the metal had still gone for wartime needs.
They got various grants, and so they were able then to hire Ducky Johnson Movers. They have moved their
by car, so it's a little bit west of here. And it was donated by Cecil Sexton, who was the grandson of Friley. Friley Sexton in 1850s applied for a land grant, and he improved the property, the crops and whatnot. not, and then he married eventually.
1872.
They had an original cabin that was built. Oh my goodness.
That's okay.
Well, there's a lot of that. I know.
That's great.
You do the best you can, I
Yep,
guess.
that's it.
Yeah, there's a picture of Friley on the mantle and the original cabin, which is very similar looking to this. And the other document is interesting to me because it actually, McDonald's is in town, so if you were heading west, then you may have seen the McDonald's would have been on the left-hand side. But that's where this house was originally built. It's just a 4-room.
A steam boiler, a portable steam boiler. You could take it somewhere and power whatever equipment you need to power.
Almost like one of those traveling guys that would go through the community and maybe barter things.
One heck of a drill press. Not sure. Do you
This motor, but it's still 1905. The guys feed it from one side, and it goes around and crushes it, and the juice comes out with one side. And then after we have about 50 gallons, then we transfer it over to, we have this 100-gallon, like a cauldron. We built we had a man who does
Weaving and sewing
He built a 60 by 60 pole
displays?
The peacock will now go hide underneath the house. Tail finish.
Yeah, that's why I just looked up and saw that.
Yep.
I gotta go up and take a
And
closer
And this was
video.
from around here.
Yes, this was, it's west of Chipola River, it's about 4 miles west of here. And, State Road 73 is there, and if you head north, right there, this was built on the west side of the Chipola River before you get to the Jackson County line. So it's in Calhoun County. The man actually was from Alabama, but he saw this style house up in Virginia. And so he moved down this way to try to build a house.
1820.
It lifts the latch. And then at nighttime, before you go to bed, you pull the string in, and that locks your door. The cool thing about having the local folks donate these to us is that they still have memory of for that. Don't know who lived in it, but they bought it. And then by horse and buggy, they moved it 7 miles. So they
So
put
it was
on
built,
their-
you said this was built
This was built 1860. So
1860.
when
Okay.
they bought it, it was already 50 years old. And this is a really good example of the chinking, the typical chinking that they would use in the houses. This one has nice open windows. The other house was built actually with no windows, but it did have 3. Oops, somebody just close that. It's okay. Most remote rural areas. But she would have probably had a light bulb like this. I really should ask Jackie. This is the one they love to run down to and listen to the ringing thunder. And I'll have to ask her.
The old chinking that
Or did Willie?
as the logs shrink and swell doesn't adapt.
Thing that was moved the farthest. We think Henry got into some trouble because I found a letter from her father saying that I've taken care of the situation. So, don't exactly know what that was all about. However, this would have been the first part that was built. This would have been their one-room cabin, but they put the lock over here, so we have to go now this way. Then, as they were able to do so, with money and all that, they added this. I think they started with 3 kids and have like 14 altogether. Turn this light on. Let's see the original. So these are 2 wood burning stoves that actually work. When we cook, we usually
A stroller and a high chair.
and a high
all in
chair,
one.
all in one. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, just how they're able to come up with ideas. This is the Finch family, but the Wells family this is Catherine and Henry Wells over here. They both died around the turn of the century, 1900, thereabouts, and then the cabin was sold to the Finch family. And so the deed to sale is hanging here on the wall as well. And it was sold for $300, the property and everything for $300, and it was payable $75 a year. So in 4 years, they had it all paid off, and they owned everything. Henry was a wheelwright cousin that he would put his fingers in, and if he could hold them in there for more than 4 seconds, it wasn't hot enough. And if he couldn't hold it in there for 4 seconds, it was too hot and they had to let the water cool with it. And that's how they knew just exactly the right temperature to singe the hair off the hog. But again, all of every piece was used of the hog. The lard, and if you got the piece along the back, the other ones, so they started to build a new house, and of course the first thing they built would have been the dining and kitchen area. Once you have that, you've got a brand new kitchen and all. This is where the real action takes place. Willard's cousin, Miss Francis, who mostly wrote all of the grants for us, she always is in here making biscuits. So for every event, every field trip, everything that we do with people on the property except private yours, she's out here making biscuits in this wood burning stove. And then the old washboards are here. We
So
have,
do you do this all summer?
I will do it anytime somebody shows up. However, we don't have a lot of people that come in during the summer because nothing is air conditioned. Yeah, this is nothing. Yes, it is.
The kitchen
And, well,
slash
there are
dining
2
room.
doors, and typically you could get cross ventilation.
A washing machine. And a wringer dryer. Drier than they would be if you don't run it through the wringer. All run by a little electric motor. Idiot. Or maybe not intermediate. Maybe it's actually newer. Here's a newer version. More like the tubs that we're familiar with. Still a ringer, of course. Once again, the little electric motor down there. And a third version. The Maytag. This is probably not much earlier than what my mother would have had when I was a child.
The organ is the very first organ in Calhoun County, and they saw it in a Sears and Roebuck catalog that was probably in the outhouse. And they ordered it. It came down from Washington, New Jersey, all the way down by steamboat, not by steamboat, by train, and then put on a steamboat and came down the river here. So that was waited all her life for him. And so this really was her existence, this home. She sort of became what I would call the caretaker. She made the meals for the family, took care of the home and all of that. And then up in the roof here, again, original ceiling, where the cork is where the carbide lighting came in. And then here's another, what I would call a fun fact. This house and the schoolhouse came from the same community, donated by the same family. And so now if you take yourself back to the schoolhouse, we came in through the door, and it was grades 1 through 3. And it had a wood box. This was the wall they taught on. It originally had a double fireplace. There was a walkway into grades 4 through 6 with a closet on the side. Same exact floor plan. So my thinking is somebody thought that was a good idea. It would work for this. And so this is the girls' room, and it's attached to Mom and Dad's room.
Oh, okay.
And it's got the wood box, the fireplace, and the closet. Above your head is a quilt frame, so they could lower that down.
High ceiling.
Yes, maybe by then they discovered that heat rises, and that it would stay a little bit cooler. And nice big windows and doors. All the doors open out onto the front porch. That picture is a picture of 4 of the siblings on the wall there. You can tell they almost all look alike except for Eula. But Elle and her brother Mode and Rube, I mean, they look almost like triplets there in that picture. And they were trusted with guns and bows and arrows. But I'm sure if they worked the fields all day, every day, or went to school and then worked the fields, they were ready to go to sleep at night, pretty much. And this is actually a mattress made out of horsehair. That's a lot of horse.
Yeah.
And the other ones are feather beds. And Willard always said that.
Right.
And
I even remember those.
yes.
You must
Yeah,
have-
no, that's all I remember.
Huh?
That's all I remember is
Right.
Dr. Zawisky coming to the house.
Yes. Yes. So this is the waiting room, of course. This is his diploma. It's written on actual sheepskin. And so what we decided is that he said he went to the University of Tennessee in Nashville. But now you have Nashville, and then you have the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So looking at a picture over there, it looks like perhaps the two schools had one medical college, if you will. And so did he graduate from Nashville? Did he graduate from the University of Tennessee? I think it was all one big thing. But what I love on there is it lists, not only did the professor sign it, but it lists everything that they taught. So you can see his anatomy and chemistry and physics, obstetrics and pediatrics and pathology and different types of surgery and mental disease, all those things. He was schooled in all of that. Typical yield would be about 25.
Wow.
Oh,
So that's huge. That's just huge. He also kept a safe because he was trusted by the rural folks as their banker. So it might hold the deed to their property, any little bit of money that they had. But he typically bartered for services. Lists a lot of the deliveries, names. And then in the front, pages were added because people knew that they had been delivered by Dr. Dowling. They'll come in and write their name and the date they were born, and it's kind of a fun little thing. That's an old EKG machine also. He delivered 4,662 babies in his career. I think we figured it's like 1.6 per week.
once again, a gas station that only sells gas, no diesel.
Yes. And so Youngstown was actually named after Chief John Watt. And so a lot of the local Indian information is on that wall. This wall is all about the school and the graduates and the
Panama City. The main city part is over that way, and you can't really see it. But we're in the traffic from it.